What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the specs of the Samsung Galaxy S4 to the iPhone 5. Now the S3 was the most compared phone to the iPhone 5 last year, and no doubt a lot of people are going to be sort of in a position where they'll be deciding whether to go for the S4 or the iPhone 5, at least up until the next iPhone release. So I thought in my usual style, let me do a head-to-head comparison between these two devices and give you guys a better idea of the differences in spec. So let's look at the dimensions firstly and the size of the phones. Now I think this is going to be a decider for most people anyway. The S4 is obviously larger in terms of height and width, and it's also slightly thicker, although the S4 is only about 0.3 millimeters thicker than the iPhone 5. But obviously it's a larger phone because it's got a larger screen. So the S4 has a 4.99 inch screen, whereas the iPhone 5 has a 4-inch screen. Now obviously this comes down to personal preference. Some people like that larger screen to consume media such as video, etc., and having that larger screen is beneficial. However, some people like the compact size of the handset and don't really want to have a really big handset. So the iPhone 5 there would be advantageous because of the compact size. In terms of resolution, the S4 has a 1080p display, a full 1080p display, 1920 by 1080. The iPhone 5 a 1136 by 640 display. So now in terms of the resolution, the 720p videos, HD videos on the iPhone 5 will have to be scaled down slightly. Now that's not saying they look bad, but they will have to be scaled down slightly. It's not going to be pixel for pixel, whereas the S4 pixel for pixel, you're going to be getting full 1080p videos. In terms of pixel density, the S4 actually has a significantly higher pixel density, 441 ppi. The iPhone 5 are 326 ppi. So you're going to be getting more crisper and sharper images. Again, at that point above 300, it is difficult to tell the difference, but you have got a significantly higher pixel density on the S4. Weight, the S4 130 grams, the iPhone 512 grams. Now obviously the S4 larger phone, so it's slightly more, 18 grams than the iPhone 5. Again, it comes down to the preference. What do you prefer, a compact phone or do you prefer a larger phone there? Build, now this is again another key factor here. The iPhone 5 has that premium feel. It's got the aluminium body with the glass as well, so it's got a nice premium feel to it. The S4, they've gone for a polycarbonate casing. Now they're saying this is stronger than the S3, but this is a big disadvantage for the Samsung devices, the Galaxy devices that they've got, is a lot of people don't like that plasticky look. They want, if they're going to be spending a premium amount on the phone, they want it to look premium. Samsung say they use this because it's very durable and also keeps the phone very light as well for its size. But once again, I think this is a big disadvantage that a lot of people are annoyed about, especially considering the fact that the S4 looks pretty much the same as the S3. Now looking at what's inside the devices, the processors, the S4, now the international version is going to have an Exynos 5 octa-core processor. That's 8 cores. Now I've been quite impressed by this. You've got 4 cores running at 1.6 gigahertz, Cortex A15. You've got another 4 cores which are going to be running at 1.2 gigahertz, Cortex A7. Now the way this is going to work is the smaller cores are going to sort of handle your general sort of usage, and then the larger cores are going to kick in when you need more intensive tasks. And there's also going to be a 1.9 gigahertz quad core processor version as well. As you know, with the S3 they also had the different variants. The iPhone 5 has the Apple A6 dual core 1.2 gigahertz processor. Now obviously on paper the S4 has a much better processor, but we'll need to see benchmarks. But the octa-core is something new that we've not seen on smartphones before, so that's very impressive there. In terms of internal memory, the S4 and the iPhone 5 both come in 16, 32 and 64 gigabyte variants. However, the S4 does have expandable storage, so you're going to get a 64 gigabyte memory card, expandable up to that amount. So again, even if you went for the 16 gigabyte version of the S4, the 64 gigabyte version, the 64 gigabyte memory card is really going to up your storage on the device. Again, something that's never been on the Apple devices, and some of the recent Android devices, such as the HTC One, Nexus 4, etc., don't have expandable storage. So now this is something that's becoming more and more rare in the smartphone market. I really think it's a very, very useful feature, and having that expandable storage, you don't have to sort of be stuck with the storage that you've got. So very useful there. In terms of RAM, the S4 2GB of RAM, the iPhone 5 1GB of RAM. Now obviously RAM is really useful for multitasking and things like that, so having extra RAM is going to be advantageous here. In terms of the cameras, the S4 13 megapixel camera, the iPhone 5 has an 8 megapixel camera. Now the S4 obviously it's also got some of these new features that they've been talking about, dual camera, so you can have take shots and videos and use both cameras, so it's going to sort of paste the picture of you into the picture or video that you're taking. You've got drama shot, you're going to take multiple shots in one go, and then you can pick the one that you want later. You've got an eraser option to take things out, and you've also got pictures with sound. I've said this before, I don't see the point of having pictures with sound. I'd just rather take a video. Obviously the iPhone 5 has its features such as FaceTime, which a lot of people are popular with. They prefer using that compared to something like Skype. So you've got your different sort of options there. Obviously a side-by-side comparison will be useful, and I've seen a few nice side-by-side comparisons between the S3 and the iPhone 5. Now it'll be useful to see those with the S4 and the iPhone 5. Obviously if once I do get hold of the S4, then we'll have some on the channel comparisons. Video, both do 1080p at 30 frames a second from the rear-facing cameras. And the front-facing cameras, the S4 has a 2.1 megapixel front-facing camera, the iPhone 5 a 1.2 megapixel front-facing camera. The S4 can film at 1080p at 30 frames a second from the front-facing camera. The iPhone 5 720p at 30 frames a second. So obviously you've got 1080p on the S4 on both front and rear cameras as well. This is really useful for me anyway. When I'm if I'm videoing something and I'm editing later on, it used to really annoy me having the inconsistency between the two cameras there. But you're going to be getting 1080p on both of them. In terms of the connector, the S4 micro USB, obviously universal on Android devices. If you've got another Android device, you're going to be able to multi-use the micro USB. The iPhone 5 has the Lightning connector. Now the Lightning connector with the 4S and 4 versions, if you've got the connectors with that, they will not work with this because this is a new connector, and as it is with the newer iPad, etc. So obviously that's another element there. Connectivity, now the S4 does have NFC, and it's also got infrared LEDs to use as remote control. The iPhone 5 does not have NFC. Now Apple have sort of not gone for NFC, at least this time around. How useful is NFC? They're really pushing for it, things like payments, etc. Right now it's not really picked up hugely, but the S4 does have NFC, whereas the iPhone 5 does not. Operating system, obviously now this is going to be another big deciding factor for a lot of people. The S4 has the Android operating system 4.2.2 Jelly Bean, the latest version, and it comes with the TouchWiz UI on top of the Android. So you're going to get a lot of the Samsung features on there. iPhone 5, obviously, iOS 6. Now, this is going to come down to personal preference. Do you prefer Android? Do you prefer iPhone? I'm going to leave that to you. As I've said, I usually don't go into the debates in these videos, maybe in a different video. The S4 also comes with some additional features such as Smart Scroll. So if you're looking down, it's going to eye track and scroll down automatically. Also, by tilting the device, you've got Smart Pause. If you look away from the device, you're going to be getting it's going to pause the video as well. It's got air gestures as well, so if you sort of hover your finger over certain apps, you're going to be getting like rollovers, etc. Without actually having to click touch down onto the device. So that's another useful feature. The iPhone 5 obviously has some of its own features such as Siri. Now S4 does have S Voice. Now they're trying to really push for this, but again, this we'll have to see. The S Voice on the S3 wasn't too great, I'll be honest. I've used it myself, so I hope the S4 will have an improved version of S Voice, and obviously Siri iPhone 5 is pretty popular amongst the Apple sort of audience there as well. Battery wise, the S4 has a lithium ion 2600 milliamp battery, the iPhone 5 a lithium polymer 1440 milliamp battery. Now the S4 battery is removable as with the other Galaxy devices. The iPhone 5 battery is non-removable. So you're going to be having that same battery, you can't get a spare battery, etc. Now obviously in terms of milliamps, the S4 much larger battery, you know, you're looking at a significant amount, over 1,000 milliamps there on the S4 battery. However, obviously it's got a bigger screen and it's pushing out more pixels, so it might be a little bit more power intensive. Obviously, in terms of use, we're gonna have to look at those hands-on. Price wise, the iPhone 5 currently going at 16GB version is £529 or $649. The S4 16GB version is going to be around about the £550 mark or $700. So similar pricing here for the 16GB versions. SIM free, this is I'm talking about. So we're not talking about any contracts and carriers. Obviously those will vary. To summarize, those are some of the key differences between these two devices. And the S4 is a newer handset, so it's been released a few months after the iPhone 5. So clearly it does have a lot of spec advantages. But the next iPhone, maybe the iPhone 5S or the iPhone 6, may be more comparable to the S4 when it does come out. So that we'll have to wait and see. It does come down to personal preference though. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer Apple? Do you prefer Android? Do you prefer a larger phone? Do you prefer a smaller phone? What are your views on these phones? You know, do drop me a comment below and let me know which one would you go for. Would you go for the iPhone 5 or would you go for the S4? And if I do get hold of an S4 in the usual style, I'll have a full review on the channel, so do stay tuned for that. Hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button. It really does help me out. And why not subscribe to the channel? Hit the button right here. I've got plenty more videos coming up. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV, and I'll see you next time.